Go ahead and get started. If you are here for the 8th grade meeting for parents, you are in the right spot. Very excited that you can join us this evening. Just wanted to put this meeting on, whether you're a parent of a returning student who was an 8th grader last year or are new to Facet, new to Oregon. Just wanted to provide you with some information that'll help you hopefully ease anxieties and give you everything you need in terms of information for getting started next week under our hybrid plan. We'll be under that plan for the next 2 weeks, the week of October 23rd and the week of October 30th. And then we'll be able to get all of our students back in to school all together at the on November 2nd, the first Monday of the month. Just a couple of reminders, if you are joining us, if you could please mute your phone or any device that you're joining us from. Appreciate that. That way we don't have any feedback. We are recording this, so we'll, like I put in the email, we'll send this link out so you can listen to the recording, and then we will also put that on our YouTube channel as well. So I'm going to try and make this just pretty informal. What I'm going to do is I put together a presentation for you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And then what I'd like to do is, if you could, I'll review the agenda with you. Hopefully by looking at that agenda, you'll be able to see the topics we're going to cover. And if after we've covered all that information, or as we go along, if you would like to put any questions you might have into the chat session, I'll go ahead and get to those questions and hopefully answer all the questions you might have at the end of the meeting. All right, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and share my screen with you at this time, and feel free, like I said, if you have questions, let me know about that. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to have my screen shared now. And I'm just going to go through this presentation with you. And like I said, I'm going to kind of jump around back and forth. I have a video to show you as a demonstration of what our kids are going to see, and then some other things to show you as well, which are on different tabs. So I'll jump around. I hope that doesn't bother everyone. Hopefully you'll be able to follow along pretty well. Like I said, it's going to be recorded, so you can go back and watch this anytime you want, and we'll answer questions you might have at the end. First, just want to go through the agenda with you right now. I'm going to start by going over schedules and routines. We have updated daily schedules this year and a 2-hour delay schedule, and also have a modified schedule for next week and the following week. So I want to make sure you're aware of those and know what's going on in terms of schedules. Really want to highlight health and safety tonight. We've made some enhancements to the building to make sure your students and our staff are safe, have some new protocol and procedures in place. And then really want to touch on the arrival time when students come to school, and lunchtime as well, as there seems to be, or there is a lot of concerns about those time as students are moving in groups and are in larger groups during the day. Also want to talk about PBIS, which is our Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports program or framework here at Facet. We'll talk about the Facet 5, the houses that we have, expectations that we have for students, and how we've updated those to reflect COVID-related items, and also talk about teaching expectations to our kids. And then a lot of the information I have for you tonight kind of falls in the general category, so we'll go over that as well at the end. So our schedules and routines part, we updated our schedule this year to reflect a number of things, primarily driven by COVID-related concerns and social distancing and spacing that are requirements from the Lucas County Health Department and from the governor. So those forced us to make some changes just to keep safety of our students and staff at the forefront. So just want to go over those with you. I did send these out in last week's email, the weekly updates and reminders, but just wanted to take time tonight to go over those with you as well. So when we look at the schedule this year, for 8th grade parents, this is going to be a little bit different for you and for your students. One thing you'll notice on this schedule here for our regular daily schedule is that we've eliminated stride. So previously, stride was a time where we would use that time to teach our expectations with our Teaching Tuesday. We'd have our Fun Friday. We'd have news days a couple times throughout the week. We would also have Alex time, silent sustained reading, and then we'd have reteaching and reassessment. We eliminated stride because under our PBIS framework and our Facet 5 concept with our houses, we had students combined. We had students combined, 7th and 8th graders together. One of the things that we wanted to do to eliminate some of the social distancing issues we might have, or groups of students together, and ultimately contact tracing, if there are any issues, is to keep 7th and 8th graders apart. So what we decided to do was take some of that time away from stride and put that to the beginning of the day up here in homeroom. So we've taken 15 minutes of that 30-minute time and we have put it in the homeroom, and we have also added instructional time throughout the day, so that all of our class periods in terms of instructional periods are balanced at 45 minutes. You'll see that the period 4 is longer. The reason that's longer, 96 minutes, is because that does include lunch. Students will eat either a 4A, 4B, 4C, or 4D lunch, and that also includes academic assist time. That time is in place because we have to transition students to and from lunch, and we have some crossover. So students are in that AA time with their 4th period teacher, as well as that instructional time. So that 96 minutes is a combination of the 45 minutes for instruction, 30 minutes for lunch, and then a 14-minute period for academic assist, as well as 2 transition times of 3 minutes. So then also you'll see that the 7th period is 52 minutes longer. That's because that time includes dismissal protocol that we're going to have in place that's going to be new this year. And I'm going to get into that in just a little bit here as we talk about arrival and dismissal routines. So you can see below that regular schedule that our 2-hour delay schedule just reflects our regular schedule, but again, it's just 2 hours postponed, which does shorten the time for 28 to 28 minutes for the instructional time, and then shorter time during 4th period. It doesn't shorten the lunch time. We still have 30 minutes for lunch, but then period 7 shortens that time as well. Just to look at the key here, you'll notice a few periods and times have asterisks next to them. I wanted to highlight those times. Homeroom, you'll see here, has that 15 minutes time added to it. If you look down here, homeroom, that will take place in 1st period. So our students will report directly to 1st period in the morning, and will be in that 1st period from the time that they arrive to school to the time that they are dismissed from 1st period. So when they come in the morning, when they're allowed to come into the building at 7:20, whether they're off the bus or dropped off, they'll report directly to their 1st period class after they drop their items in their locker, and then they'll be in that 1st period for homeroom, and then the 1st period. Period 4, I talked about what that includes. And then period 7, that'll include afternoon announcements. We have brief afternoon announcements for students, and then we're going to have a staggered and rotating dismissal for buses and for parent pickup, which I'll get to that in more detail in just a few minutes here. I just wanted to highlight, because I have had some questions from parents and from students that are going to be new to Facet as far as the regular daily schedule for math and language arts. You'll notice here that these are blocks of time. I'm figuring by now, although it looks different remotely, students are aware that their math and language arts classes are a period and a half. So if you have a morning schedule of language arts and math classes, that will take up the entire 1st, 2nd, and 3rd period. So you'll see that here for periods 1, 2, and 3, that time when those end at 10:26 is going to be the same time that your math and language arts block will end if you have that in the morning. In the afternoon time, depending on whether you're a 7th grader or an 8th grader, that time will start during 4th or 5th period, and then it will end either at 6B or it'll end in 7th period if you're an 8th grader. But again, the same time is same, instructional time is same. you'll have a time of 69 minutes or 70 minutes for your math and language arts blocks. And again, if you have any questions about the schedule, feel free to, if I don't answer those throughout the presentation, go ahead and place those in the chat and we'll get to those at the end. Did want to go over the next couple of weeks schedule under hybrid with you. We've put together what we want to reflect the same as we've had in previous years. If you're a returning parent or you've had students who have moved on past Facet, you know that in previous years we had a staggered start where 7th graders all together would come in one day without 8th graders, and then vice versa with 8th graders coming in on a day to themselves. We do a lot of fun activities on that day, especially last year when we started the Facet 5, our house concept. We brought kids in, had them together as houses, did a lot of team challenges and house competitions. Had a lot of fun with that. Obviously, with social distancing and not allowed to have large groups, we can't do some of those things, but we still wanted to keep a lot of those things in place in terms of the concepts and make it fun for the kids as well. So next week on the 19th or 20th, depending on whether your student's a green or a gold student by last name, they're going to come in and we're going to have them arrive in the morning, report to first period. They'll have their breakfast there if they choose to have breakfast. We'll get them acclimated with where their class is. So during that breakfast time from 7:50 to 8:05, they'll get acclimated in the room. We'll show news that we're going to show. We'll have our morning announcements. And then we'll transition on to what we're going to operate as a 2-hour delay schedule. So again, for next week and next week for these 4 days, we'll follow a 2-hour delay schedule, but that's only going to be a modified schedule in school. Students will still report to school on time by 7:50 a.m. So during this time, just wanted to let you know what your kids were going to do next week during these 2 days, then on Thursday and Friday as well. What we're going to do is we're going to do a kickoff assembly that's going to be via Zoom, led by myself. We would normally bring the kids down to the cafeteria, or I'm sorry, to the gym or the auditorium. Not going to be able to do that this year, so we'll have it via Zoom. We'll introduce our houses, basically in a nutshell, and I'll send out more information and you'll see some more video information on this, and I'm sure your kids will talk to you about it as well. Our house concept is a way that we wanted to create teams. We did want this to be 7th and 8th graders together, kind of to build that continuity and that family atmosphere in the school. Didn't want to separate 7th and 8th graders with that. So we're going to still maintain that. So we still will have 7th and 8th graders in houses together. Just not going to be able to do a lot of things together physically as groups, but we'll still have them together in terms of competing against each other by houses. So basically, they're going to be in one of 5 houses. These are houses by color. So they're going to be either in a black, blue, red, purple, or orange house. And so when they come in on these days, they're going to have a name tag outside of their locker. It will be colored. So they'll put that on, and that will identify their house. And they're going to be identified in their houses by their first period teacher. So every single teacher has a house that they're assigned to and they're a member of, and students will be in that house as well by the first period teachers. After we introduce that concept to them, talk to them a little bit about that, we'll go over some videos with them that are basically videos that we've created in advance. And I'm going to give you a highlight of one of these videos, which will cover some of our health and safety protocol as well. But we've created these to teach students about our expectations. The video we're going to send out to students in advance of coming on Monday or Tuesday is our arrival video. I'm going to show you that in just a minute here. That'll help students, I think, feel a little bit more comfortable, especially our 7th graders as they arrive to school and the procedures to follow when they get to school. But also wanting students to be able to see videos about what they can expect during the morning time before they go to lunch. So we'll talk to them about lunch procedures, Nurse Jackie's procedures in case they have to visit the nurse's clinic, and then hallway behavior and expectations as well. And we'll introduce them to our new digital hall passes that we have for them as well. More than likely, most of you are aware that our 7th graders and 8th graders both lost a teacher last year. Our 8th graders, many of them had Mrs. Walters at Eisenhower when they were sixth graders, and our seventh graders, majority of them knew or had Mrs. Walters, who passed away last spring. Wanted to, as the students have not been in school since her passing, wanted to have a time where we dedicated some time and had a tribute to Mrs. Walters, just so that they could maybe have some closure with that in terms of being in school and from the school environment. And wanted to pay tribute as well to Lucas Mason. If you're not aware, he was a student who here at Facet, a seventh grader last year, who would be an eighth grader this year, who passed away towards the end of last school year. And he hadn't been in school since that time, so wanted to dedicate some time to both of those individuals who unfortunately have passed. So just a reminder, if you're joining us late, if you could mute your phone, we'd appreciate that, just so we don't have any feedback.
You're not muted.
We'll go ahead and during that time review our expectations. We're going to have a Kahoot review. So that's a game that we play, kind of a trivia game with students. And then we'll have another live Zoom meeting to wrap up our virtual kickoff and that morning. For the remainder of the day, students, as you can see here, are going to follow their 2-hour delay schedule. So we'll still see every single teacher on that first day of school. But it'll be a shortened time, 28 minutes, where during that time, we'll cover expectations for the remainder of the areas of our building. So you can see down here during your students' language arts class, they'll have a general PBIS lesson. During math class, we'll talk about hallway procedures. During science class, we'll talk about restroom procedures. And then during social studies, we'll talk about what it means when you visit the front office, whether that's to see myself, our assistant principal, Mrs. Beveridge, Mr. Malatich, our counselor, or Nurse Jackie. So they'll see that. So that's what Monday and Tuesday will include. Whether your students are green or gold student will have that during the first 2 days of school. And so what I want to do is show you a little video that we put together. Really want to highlight and thank Mr. Malatich. He was kind of our director on these, had some other people involved as well, some actors, but especially our mascot, Eddie the Eagle. You'll see him in just a minute. But this is what your students are going to receive via email and on our YouTube video. So they'll watch this in advance and be able to see what it looks like to arrive at Facet. So enjoy this for the next minute or so, and then I'll get back on.
If you're feeling ill in the morning, it's important to let your parent or guardian know before coming to school. Once you arrive at school, you will have your temperature checked. A staff member will take your temperature when you walk in the door. Your temperature will be taken with a no-touch thermometer on either your forehead or your wrist. Please hold out your wrist if you prefer your temperature to be taken at the wrist rather than the forehead. Take your breakfast and head to class. Walkers and parent drop-off students will be using hand sanitizer from hand sanitizer dispensers while you're having your temperature checked. This hand sanitizer will be effective for 24 hours once it is applied. You may wash your hands throughout the day as needed with restroom use, etc. Your hand sanitizer will remain effective through multiple washes. Students who ride the bus will be given hand sanitizer before exiting the bus. Hallways are going to look a little different this year. To facilitate social distancing and traffic flow, we now have red lines dividing the halls. Just like the highway, stay to the right. The arrows on the floor are a friendly reminder of the traffic flow. Eddie has first period with Mrs. Clough. He would stay to the right until he was at the point where he needed to cross. Checking first, he makes his move. If he were wearing a coat, he would put that in his locker. That would be the only time he would need to go to his locker. This year, you will not need to be going back to your locker between classes. Carry everything with you in your book bag. Looks like Eddie is all set, and so are you.
Okay, so that's just an example of one of the videos your students will see. They'll get that video in advance. We wanted to make sure the students, along with some instructions, we're able to see what it looks like to arrive at Facet, and hopefully that helps ease some anxiety on their part and have a little bit of fun with that as well. So again, we'll cover arrival and dismissal in a little bit more detail in just a minute, but your students will have a number of videos like that they'll see on the first day of school that'll help them with what things look like and procedures, policies, and expectations here at Facet. On Thursday and Friday, it's going to be the same schedule for students in terms of the 2-hour delay modified schedule. Again, they'll still report to school on time by 7:50. What we're going to do is we're going to change this up a little bit. Thursday and Friday are picture days, so we're going to change our house color days that they wear their house colors to the following week because they have pictures on Thursday and Friday, and we'll want them to be in their picture attire for those days. But again, they're going to arrive as they do every day, go to first period, get anything, breakfast, they'll have that, put their coats away in their lockers. They'll eat breakfast in the room from 7:50 to 8:05. Announcements will take place during that time, as well as News 10. And then the rest of the time during the morning from 8:05 to 10:05, we'll have students called down by class for pictures. And then we'll also have some additional orientation review activities that we'll do to highlight and reinforce what they learned on Monday and Tuesday. So while they're waiting for those pictures, sometime during that morning time, we'll have a review of the expectations. We'll also introduce them to all the clubs that we have available at Facet. We are able to meet with those clubs after school now in small groups, so we're excited about that. And each of our advisors have put together a video for them, and they will learn about those. Virtual learning reflection, what that will mean is that we'll talk a little bit about what they learned under remote conditions, which they're in now, and get them acclimated to go into hybrid and then full instruction in person. Social contract, all that means is that we talk about, when we review our expectations and we set those expectations, it's basically just a contract that students make to abide by those socially and to meet those expectations here at Facet. And then for the remainder of the day, students again will follow that 2-hour delay schedule, 28 minutes in each class. And during that time, that's when they'll do those kind of first day activities, first week activities that they would normally do back in August with teachers. Be a time for teachers to implement classroom instruction or expectations, do get to know you activities, and then begin, if they have time, teaching of content. So that covers those first 2 days with students that we'll have under under hybrid conditions for next week. All right, so just going back to the presentation, that covers the timeline and activities for next week. The following week, the week of the 30th, we'll have normal instructional days, so our normal daily schedule, although students will only be here 2 days that week. I wanted to go over, I did send this out, but wanted to highlight this in case you didn't have the opportunity to see that. We do have a building map that you can share with your students or with your kids, our students. So this was sent out to you, so you have a copy of this. You just need to refer to the email I sent out last week. What you can do is show your children, depending on where their first period teacher is, if they have their first period teacher in mind, you can see right here we have 4 entrances that they can use. If they are a pickup or a drop off, they'll come in through door 4 over here, which is right by the parking lot. That's on the east side of the building. And then doors number 1, 16, and 15 are entrances used for students who are getting off the bus. Entrance number 1 could be used as well if students are walking to school and they cross Star Avenue and come up that main walkway to the building, they'll go in door number 1 as well. We'll get into that during arrival routines as well in just a minute. But just using, let's say, Mrs. Clef, as we did in the video, as an example, a student who is picked up or is dropped off would go through door number 4 and then would follow the hallway all the way to Mrs. Clef's class. All students' lockers are going to be outside of their first period teacher's classroom. Students who are green are going to have an even number locker. Students who are gold are going to have an odd number locker. We put that in place just because we wanted to, at least in some way, social distance students in the hallway if they do have to visit their lockers during that morning time and after school time. If a student was riding the bus, they'll enter through the closest entrance to where the bus drops them off. So it could be at door number 1, 16, or 15. And again, we'll get into more procedures with that when we get into arrival routine. But they'll report directly to their first period. So if you want to go over that map with them, that might alleviate some anxiety as to where their teacher's class is. Maybe draw arrows. I've seen students highlight their teacher in different color. You can do any of those things, whatever helps you and your student out. So we'll get into, as we transition to the drop-off and pickup routine here at Facet, you'll be able to see exactly what we do. So this went out as well this weekend in the weekly updates and reminders. I just want to highlight the procedures. As you can see from this map, Star Avenue is down here at the bottom of your screen. Driveway number 1 here, which is the eastmost driveway, is the only driveway that we allow as an entrance. So our driveway 2 over here is exit only. Driveway 1 is enter and exit. So what you'll do if you're dropping off your student, we anticipate a lot of parents dropping off students. We always have had that. We always worked hard to try and avoid traffic out on Star Avenue. So following these procedures will be really helpful in alleviating any traffic issues we might have. All you're going to do very simply is follow the arrows. You'll follow through the entire parking lot all the way through the arrows. You'll loop around following the traffic pattern, and we'll have cones set up out here, and we want you to pull all the way up to this farmost cone. So this is going to be the cone most south in the parking lot. Even though the door is right here, we ask you not to stop at the door. Yes, it would be absolutely more convenient for your student, but this is not that far to walk, and stopping here is going to greatly back up traffic, which will end up out on Star Avenue if we don't keep this going. So we'd ask you to pull up all the way here, drop your student off. We want to make sure that students are following safety protocol. So we want them, if they can, to get out the right side, the passenger side of the vehicle. If they do have to get out on the driver's side, just want to make sure they follow the vehicle. Don't cross traffic here. Don't go across the parking lot. Make sure they just go right to the sidewalk and then enter through door number 4. So very easy to follow, and then you'll just go right out driveway 1 as well. This area here, which is the entrance to the bus loop, we ask that you not enter that driveway between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. During the morning time, buses are arriving anytime from 7 o'clock all the way to 7:40. So we want to avoid any issues with buses. And then at the end of the day, we have buses coming in early to wait for students to dismiss. And we have late buses that don't arrive until 3 p.m. During the day, from 7:50 to 2:30, you're more than welcome to park up here if you have to enter the building, but just between 7 a.m. and 7, or I'm sorry, between before 7 a.m. and that time, and then before 3 p.m., we don't want you to enter the bus loop. If your student is a busser, they'll get dropped off by the bus here. They'll get picked up the same area as well. And so they'll enter through door number 1, 16, or 15, whichever is closest to where the bus drops them off. Basically, we're following the same routine in the afternoon. If you're picking up your child from school, we want you to, again, I know we have a lot of parents who arrive really early, want to get that uppermost spot. But if you do that, please pull up all the way to this cone. Again, we just want to maintain a good traffic flow. Don't want to back up all the way out onto Star Avenue. So we'd ask you to pull up as far as possible and just line up here. When your students come out, we're going to guide them and teach them to go up to this point. So we ask them to stand out here or look out the doorway, wait for their parents' car to pull up all the way to this cone, not enter vehicles way back here as that disrupts traffic. And then we want students, we want parents to wait until the student enters the car and then go ahead and pull out of line if you need to. So again, if you have any questions with drop off or pick up here at Facet, you can go ahead and put that in the chat, and we'll get to that after the presentation is over. So getting back to our agenda, I want to talk about arrival and dismissal for students a little bit, which is going to kind of translate and transition into our health and safety protocols that we have in place. But when students arrive to Facet, we are going to have them go through, whether it's door 4 if they're a parent drop-off, or 15, 16, or 1 if they're a busser. They're going to go in to the building. All students are going to need to be masked before they come into the building. They'll get their temperatures checked, and we'll also provide them with hand sanitizer if they are a walker or they are a parent drop-off. If they're a busser, they'll make sure that they have their mask on, and then they will get hand sanitizer, same hand sanitizer, the Skin Guard 24 we use in the building. They'll get that before they leave, excuse me, for the bus as well. Breakfast and lunch, just wanted to talk about those a little bit. I'll transition into our safety procedures we have in place as well here, just because it's a good segue. So in terms of health and safety, again, we'll take temperatures when students arrive, give them hand sanitizer if they don't have it already coming off the bus. Again, masks must be worn at all times. They must be over the nose and over the mouth at all times. Had some questions about what type of masks are allowed. General rule of thumb, we want students to, be themselves, and by all means, if they have a mask that they want to wear that matches their outfit, or has a character on it, or has a saying on it, that's fine. We still want students to be able to be individuals, be themselves. But general guidance would be the same way that we follow the dress code. We would like them to follow the dress code with the masks. So avoid any type of inappropriate language, images of any of those type of things. If you do have a question, please let us know in advance. It's always easiest to ask about that and seek permission instead of having your child get to school and there be an issue and then we have to deal with that. So we just ask you to ask in advance if you have anything that's questionable. Have had the questions about gaiters as well. Gaiters are approved now to wear, so they can wear a mask, a traditional mask, like the surgical type or the cloth type, or a gaiter as well. But again, if it is a gaiter, it needs to cover the nose and the mouth and follow dress code. Social distancing, we've worked hard on this, and we've done a number of different things. We've created, each of the teachers have cleared out, actually, we've actually covered our entire stage with items, whether it's desks or chairs or couches or anything like that. File cabinets that the teachers might have in their class to move out of there is not essential. To create more space in terms of social distancing for their desks. They've moved that out, and they've done a great job of spacing students social distance wise in the class, and we're doing that in the hallway as well. So you saw in the video the red stripe that we have down the hallways. I'll show you a picture of this that you can see that, and I'll present that for you so you can see that a little bit larger. So going back, so in the hallways, you can see here, we have placed a red stripe in every single hallway. That's just to indicate the center of the hallway. We ask students to stay on the right side of the hallway and to not cross that red line. You can see down here that we have arrows that we've placed intermittently throughout the hallways that just provides direction for the students in terms of which way to flow. But our general rule of thumb with teaching the students is going to be just stay to the right in the hallway, maintain social distance, and you'll be just fine in terms of meeting those expectations. As I said just a minute ago, teachers have created classroom layouts and seating charts to help with social distancing. This is just an example of one classroom. You can see that they have that marked out. Students are at least 3 to 4 feet apart. They're going to more than likely be 6 feet apart under hybrid conditions in the green or gold, because we'll have half as many students in class. Under full conditions, though, you can see here that the desks have been numbered. Each student will have a opportunity to sit in a seat, more than likely of their choice on the first day of school, but then teachers will create seating charts if they haven't already, just so that we know where students are at all times in terms of contact tracing. So as you can see here, teachers have put a lot of effort into making their classroom safe for your student as well. So again, if you have questions about this, feel free to note them in the chat, and we'll get to those at the end of the session. We've moved to a digital hall pass format here at Facet this year. Our students are still going to have their agenda book. Didn't want to have that interaction often between the student and the teacher of passing back and forth that agenda book. So what we've done is create a digital hall pass. Students will very simply log onto their Chromebook. They'll have it bookmarked. They'll put their name, their location, and the room number that they're in. They'll put that in themselves. Teachers will give them permission to go to the hall pass or whatever other area it is in the building. And that's the way that we'll handle hall passes. We'll be able to know where students are and how many students are in the hall digitally that way, and we won't have that interaction with the agenda book. In terms of the restroom, we've gone to good lengths to make that safe for your students as well. As you can see here, outside of each restroom, we've installed trays. You can see an agenda book here in one of those trays. What we're going to do is we're asking students to, I'm sorry about that, students to place their agenda book in one of the trays. These will be numbered 1, 2, and 3. Students will put that agenda book in the tray. We didn't want the agenda books to go into the restroom with students anymore. Just want to make sure that things are sterile. This will also help students identify as they're taught no more than 3 students at a time in the restroom. This will help them identify how many students are in the restroom. So if they see all 3 of those trays full and 3 agenda books in those trays, then what they'll do is they'll wait outside. We have circles, spacing circles for 6 feet that we have placed on the floor. They'll stand there and they'll wait for a student to leave before they come in. So just little things like that that we're doing to help students, better stay safe and keep things more sterile here in the school environment. Student partitions, those are on their way to be delivered. You've more than likely seen the partitions where students have a tri-fold partition they set on their desk with them. It's made of plexiglass or Lexan. Each student will be provided those. They'll carry that with them throughout the day, so they'll have that at lunchtime, and they'll have that with them in the classroom as well. So just an added layer of protection in addition to the mask to help with preventing any wanted to give you an example. Here we go. Sorry about that. In the cafeteria, you can see this is a picture of our cafeteria tables in the actual cafeteria. Students in 2 of the lunch periods are going to be eating lunch in the library. We've set up that as a temporary cafeteria as well. So what we've done is made sure the students are going to be spaced, so students aren't able to sit on a seat that has an X. So again, as you can see, this will be every other seat that a student will sit in. And then on the opposite side, the X's will be placed so that students are not sitting across from one another as well, both in the cafeteria and the library for lunch. That, in addition to the students having the partitions, we feel will go a long way in terms of transmission and preventing that. Last to talk about in terms of health and safety precautions, students and school supplies. We ask that students bring their own school supplies. If we do have any common supplies that teachers are supplying for students and using, they will sanitize those and provide those individually. But students should bring in their school supplies. We have placed a supply list on our website. I've sent those out as well. And those have not changed since the beginning of the year when we updated those for our remote learning environment. So students will keep those in their backpack with them throughout the day and won't be sharing those. Again, if you have any other health and safety related questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll get to those at the end of the session. Just wanted to talk to you briefly, even though we've talked about this before. We do have a matrix of expectations here at Facet. We've updated that to reflect. So you parents, as parents of 8th graders, you should have seen this last year, but wanted to just briefly review that with you. This is our expectations that we use to teach students basically what it means to be responsible, be respectful, and be ready here at Facet. So as you can see at the top here, each of the different areas of our building, beginning with all settings and ending with the office area, we go through and we teach students what it looks like to be respectful, responsible, and ready in each of those areas. So this year we've updated those, and you can see those are highlighted in red to reflect COVID-related items. So for example, under being respectful in all settings, we've added maintain social distancing. So we'll talk to students about what that means, teach them what that means, and go over this. In terms of being responsible, you can see here that we want them to notify parents before school if they are ill, and want to make sure we spell that the right way for students, and wear their face covering at all times. So those are two additional items. Again, we'll talk about this, and this has been sent out by Nurse Sexton, our district nurse, about what that looks like if you have symptoms, and notifying your parent not coming to school if you have those symptoms. But we'll talk to students as well about that. And again, just under be ready, we want students to be prepared for school, so bringing their face covering. And then as you can see, you'll have this as parents. Students will get this on the first day of school, in addition to being sent it out in advance. And we'll go to great lengths to teach this and reteach and revisit it with students. You can see here all the items that are normal, under normal conditions, and then under COVID conditions, what we've added as well. So again, if you have questions about that, go ahead and feel free to put that in the chat. I just wanted to touch base and revisit this briefly. Every Tuesday during our homeroom, we'll be Teaching Tuesday. That's where we highlight a area of expectations, whether it's respectful, responsible, or ready, or as we have this year so far about being better in different ways. We'll teach that, have a lesson dedicated that all students will receive during that Tuesday, and then we'll follow up on that expectation or that area on Friday as well. Facet 5, I've talked about that. That's the house concept, where students will be in a house color, and they will be doing different challenges, activities, accumulating points throughout the year in competition for different incentives that we're going to be providing for them. We'll also continue our high five cards. So if you're new to Facet or not familiar, our high five cards are cards that we give out to students that we catch guess being good or meeting expectations. So when we see them being respectful, responsible, and ready in different ways, we give those high five cards out to them. They turn those in, and they accumulate house points as far as the number of cards turned in by house, and also are able to get into the drawing for different incentives and for our Eagle of the Week. We also have staff shout outs. We think it's important to recognize staff as well and acknowledge them for the great things they're doing, especially in modeling, being respectful, responsible, and ready. And so we have those that students can give to staff, as well as teachers and staff members giving that to their colleagues. General information, gonna kind of go through this quickly. A lot of this was provided in the emails. We'll continue to use our assignment planning board. Teachers will still put their daily assignments there, as well as weekly assignments as we get into full instruction with all students attending. Attendance over hybrid these next 2 weeks, we'll continue to take attendance while students are in attendance. That will obviously be easy to calculate as they're here live. On those hybrid days where they're completing remote, we'll still continue to take attendance in that way by assignments being completed. So they'll still have till the end of the week, Sunday evening, on Tuesday and Friday if they're a green student, on Monday and Thursday if they're a gold student, and then on Wednesday for their assignments for SAT periods as well. Chromebooks and charging. Just wanted to highlight these two things. 8th graders do have Chromebook cases. We ask them to carry those. 7th graders don't have the cases, so I'll talk more about that with 7th grade parents. And just really a reminder to make sure that every day they're coming to school with those Chromebooks fully charged. A little different thing for personal electronic devices this year. Students are allowed to carry those in their backpack with them throughout the day. We're going to ask that they be turned off. We'll teach students about this on the first day of school, but they will be allowed to use those electronic devices, their cell phones, personal devices, during that morning time. when they arrive to school, whether they arrive at 7:20 or 7:30, 7:40, all the way up to 7:50. We'll have them turn them off, keep them in their backpack. And then after they're eating lunch, they'll be allowed to have them out for lunch as well. And then other times, as well as long as teachers give them or other staff members give them permission. But again, we'll still reinforce not taking pictures of other students during that time, and then making sure that we put those away. Instructional expectations for hybrid. Apologize for the spelling error there. We'll fix that. What we're asking students to do on those days that they're not in person, teachers are going to provide them assignments via Schoology. They're simply going to get onto Schoology and complete those assignments on that day. So I've had a lot of questions about that. Students will not be logging in live on their non-day of attendance, whether they're green or they're gold, or on Wednesday. On Wednesday, they could check in with teachers live during the SAT periods if they reach out to them, or if teachers reach out to them and want them in their SAT period. But if they are a green student, they will not be logging in live on Tuesday or Friday. If they're a gold student, they won't be logging in live on Monday or Thursday. Lockers and backpacks, again, students will have lockers assigned to them, even though they'll have their backpacks and they'll carry them with them throughout the day. We still want to keep their items safe, hats, coats, any equipment that they have, anything for sports, any phones or electronic devices they choose to keep in their locker. So we still want students to use their locks. They can still use their locks from Ike from last year or from Facet, as long as it has that key in the back. We do need that to be a school issue lock, and those will be for sale in first period for $6, whether it's a check made out to Facet or $6 in cash. We'll distribute those to students during that first week of school as well. And then last, just a couple of things, just want to remind, parent-teacher conferences, those will be held the week of November 2nd. Those are going to be held via Zoom this year. We'll get you more information on how to sign up to those this week, so you can get started on that. And then picture days will take place on Thursday, October 22nd, and Friday, October 23rd, which is Thursday and Friday of next week. And I'll send the digital packets out to you this weekend, and we'll get those home on the first day of school for students as well. So with that said, I'll go ahead and jump into the chat, and we'll try to answer any questions. We have about 13 minutes or so to do that. So bear with me here as I stop sharing the screen and get into our chat. All right, so not many questions here, which again, if you are able to jump on and ask questions right now, I can cover those. Just question here about gaiters being acceptable versus masks. Yes, so gaiters are acceptable. Again, just want to make sure that those are dress code appropriate, and make sure at all times they cover the nose and the mouth. Okay, that's actually the only question I have here. So unless anybody has any other questions, looks like we don't have a large number of attendees. We have 14 people here on, so I could even open that up if you want to discuss anything here for the last few minutes. I did just get a question about band instruments. Yes, band instruments should still be brought to school. What we're going to have students do is take those right to the band class. They'll set their instruments and keep those in there throughout the day. So if a student's arriving on the bus, they'll go down to the band room, or if they go down there as well. Okay, I had a question about the link. Looks like some people are maybe having some issues with the link, but we'll, again, if they missed that, we'll have this recorded, and they could always jump on to the 7th grade meeting as well, and we'll make sure that that link is correct. I did have a question privately about the quarantine period if a child is sick. What I'm going to ask you to do is just refer to Nurse Sherry's email that she sent out with all those protocols. And I can assure you, if you have a student who has symptoms, they are going to, you'll be contacted directly by our school nurse, who will then, based on the symptoms and whether or not you can get an alternate diagnosis for the child, or if they need to get a test for COVID and have a negative test, that will determine the number of days that they'll be in quarantine. So you'll get that information directly based on circumstance. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and open it up. If you do have a question, a live question, I'll give about 5 more minutes for that so I can transition to the 7th grade meeting. So if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to ask them now live if you want. If not, I'll go ahead and end the meeting and transition to the 7th grade meeting. So anyone have any questions at this time?
I just wanted to mention something.
Sure.
I was one of the ones that was on the other, for some reason, the last email that you sent, it gave an incorrect link where we were all waiting. There were about 14 of us waiting there for up to a half hour for it to start. So just so you're aware of that.
Okay.
Somebody, I think it was Terry, that mentioned that she wrote in the chat over there that it's on the previous link is correct. The one before yesterday's.
Okay.
So that's why you're missing some people.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So with that in mind, I'm going to ask a question, but it might have been discussed already. I might have missed it.
That's okay.
I did see that today Lucas County has gone to the red.
Correct.
So I am questioning, is there a certain color code that or OCS is going with as far as going back to remote?
Yeah, so to answer that question, right now, obviously myself as a principal, I'm not going to make that decision. That's going to be a decision of our superintendent, Mr. Gregory, in collaboration with Lucas County Health Department or any governor order that might be given, as well as the Board of Education. So what I'm saying is just general guidelines in terms of what we're looking at. There are basically 4 things that could change that. Obviously, being only a few days before we're going to go into bringing students in, and just as soon as a week ago, things looking good and numbers going down, they can change very quickly. We'll keep that in mind. But 4 things right now will more than likely determine, and not necessarily collectively, but are big determiners for making that decision. Number 1 would be if Lucas County were to go to purple. I would say that we would, without question, more than likely go to remote learning. If we did have an outbreak here in one of the schools or as a district, that could make that change. Obviously, if the governor made an order that we were to close schools, or if we weren't able to maintain staffing due to the COVID virus. So those 4 things, and I believe Mr. Gregory was sending out information to parents this afternoon because of that change to red in Lucas County. So I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, and if you're in communication with any of the parents who missed or it was a wrong link, if they are a 8th grade parent, they are more than welcome to jump on the 7th grade meeting here as well. I'll make sure that link is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can see that someone put in, that looks like it was probably taken from Mr. Gregory's information he sent out. I hadn't seen that yet, but it's in the chat there. You can see that as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and, if there's no other questions, transition to the next meeting, but feel free, if you do have another question, go ahead and ask. Okay, looks like there are no other questions. Again, this was recorded, so I'll send this out. If by chance one of those parents isn't able to make it at 7 o'clock to the 7th grade meeting, this will go out. We'll put it on our YouTube channel as well, so you can review the information. And again, feel free anytime to call the school, send me an email if you do have a specific question that maybe you didn't want to ask tonight, or it's private, or just didn't think of now. Feel free to ask that as well. So appreciate you coming tonight and joining. We just wanted to put this on just to hopefully answer questions, alleviate maybe any anxiety that's out there in terms of coming back to school. So again, if you feel confident that if you review the information that I sent in the email, watch this video, and you'll have all the information you need for kids to get off to a good start next week. So with that said, thanks for joining tonight, and I look forward to having your 8th graders back and any new students that are coming to Facet next week. And like I said, feel free to call or email with any questions. So everyone have a good night. I'll see you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.